This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Maciej Cepnik. He's a Bitcoin entrepreneur and social media coordinator and Mexican ambassador for Bitrefill, one of the sponsors of the podcast, by the way. Maciej, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. I was waiting for an invitation for a long time for a podcast, and I'm a listener too, so I'm happy to finally be there.
Well, I'm glad we finally made it happen. So it was overdue.
Yes,
Good. And you have your own podcast as well called La Sauce.
yes, exactly. It's a French podcast about Bitcoin, so I'm trying to speak with francophones around the world, not only in Canada or Quebec, but Africans, Mexico francophones, just to get a good perspective of Bitcoin in the French world, because I think there is a lot of great English Bitcoin podcasts. So there was no point of making another one in English, and I think there's great voices in French in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, absolutely. Who have been some of the guests you've had on La Sauce?
I've had entrepreneurs, developers, people from El Salvador, uh, people building startups also in El Salvador. So a bit of a mix of everything. Some Africans. I try to really have like a diversity of different people. So we get like a good view of how Bitcoin is used, depending on the country. So yeah, because we have this vision that Bitcoin is only like a investment vehicle, especially in Canada, in Europe, in the US, because we have like the banking system pretty good, at least still pretty good. But a lot of countries in Africa, for example, will really use Bitcoin as a payment system instead. So I'm interested more in that aspect of Bitcoin more than the store of value or trying to make a quick buck out of it.
Right. The functionality, the real use case. That's good. So we'll come back to all that. Would love to get a little bit more of a background on you, Maciej, for the audience, because you have obviously a very Polish name that I am butchering the pronunciation of. But you, I guess, grew up in Canada, in Montreal.
Yeah, I was actually also born in Canada, but I consider myself way more Polish than Canadian. I joke around that only my papers are Canadian, so I feel really Polish. But now I moved to Mexico around 2 years and a half ago. So I also joke that I'm a Canadian refugee in Mexico. So yeah, born and raised in Montreal. Went to school there, didn't finish, dropped out when I started being interested in Bitcoin. Started a few startups there. Then one of them got acquired, and during the COVID whole thing, I moved to Mexico because I couldn't really bear what was happening in Canada. I was becoming crazy. So yeah,
Hmm.
now I'm living here, and I try to pursue some entrepreneurial stuff, and just living and enjoying life here.
Amazing. I love it. No one's really heard me speak French before, so I even opened a beer to help get the French flowing a little bit on the episode, maybe. Je pense que tu es le premier guest québécois sur le podcast.
Tu parles bien français. C'était sûrement euh, peut-être si j'aurais à faire un guess, Ontario, peut-être Ottawa, d'après ton accent, mais bon, je veux pas te dox non plus, donc
No, j'ai un accent full québécois.
ouais.
I do not have a French from France accent. It's pretty damn Canadian.
Yes.
Uh, so I will do it. I will come on la sauce, which is just the sauce. for the English listeners. Um, cool. So you're living in Querétaro, right?
Yes. That was not necessarily my first choice. I was moving around in Mexico a lot with my girlfriend and my other friends that also moved there. And we were kind of like tired of moving around and was still during the COVID time. So we kind of settled here for the last 2 years. But I'm going to move to Mexico City in January because Querétaro is a great city. It's really clean. It's safe. There's a lot of opportunities. If you have a family, I think it's a really great place. But it's a bit boring, so I can't wait to go to Mexico City in January.
Hmm. You must be in and out of Mexico City a fair bit, though.
Yeah, all the time. Basically, almost every month there's a trip I do for a conference or back in Canada to visit family or whatever is happening. I'm traveling a lot. So yeah, that's also why being in Querétaro is a bit inconvenient because I always have to go to Mexico City anyway. So
And how did you actually wind up in Querétaro? I'm curious. Is your girlfriend Mexican?
yes, she's Mexican. She's from the Estado de Mexico. Um, so we were living in San Miguel de Allende for like 2 3 months. It was nice, but then again, it's a more uh, city more for retirees. So Querétaro was right around, so a little bit bigger city. So it wasn't like a choice in a sense, like okay, let's settle here. But we just were tired of moving around. And at that time, I didn't want to live in Mexico City. I don't know why, but so yeah, we kind of like choose this place randomly. But yeah.
I kind of know what you mean. I mean, of all the places to live in Mexico, it's tough. It's because Mexico City is where the business is. There's a lot of networking, a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, tech, crypto, but I don't know, the pollution and stuff. There's pros and cons.
Yeah, I feel the same. But as you said, right now in the phase of my life that I I feel like I need to be closer to this kind of scene. Entrepreneurial stuff, networking. But I don't know if I will live in Mexico City forever. But at least for now, I think it's. I really love the energy. And whenever you are in Mexico City, it's like bustling with life, so it like really gives you a lot of kind of motivation, I feel. So uh, so yeah, just I think it's I love the city. So
Hmm. And for someone who hasn't been to Querétaro, like how would you describe it? Because it's definitely it's a bigger city. It's a growing city. It's supposed to be pretty safe, pretty functional. How would you describe it?
so historically, Querétaro always has been like more conservative. I think it's the only state that didn't vote for AMLO last election. um, so it's a bit more conservative, and the I think it's the second highest in GDP per capita in Mexico after Monterrey. So people live well here. I mean, of course, there's like bad neighborhoods like in every city in Mexico, but in general, the whole city feels kind of clean, organized. Uh, right now, there's like a big construction ongoing for the highway, so there's a lot of traffic issues. But once it's gonna get resolved, I think it's gonna be fine. You have all the American chains like HEB, every Costco, everything you really need to live like an American. I would say it's kind of like imagine like a city. I never been to Arizona or Nevada, whatever, but I would say it's like a semi-American city with the Mexican flavor, of course, with great opportunities. I will describe it this way, and also the climate is great. So every day it's sunny. It almost never rains except during the summer,
Hmm.
and it's not humid. So the in general, like the weather is perfect. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good description or.
Cool. No, that's awesome. And one of the few cities I haven't made my way to yet. definitely been curious about it for a long time. People have been trying to keep it secret.
Yeah, well, if you want, just tell me before January. I can show you around. There is great stuff also around. There's San Miguel de Allende really close. There's Tequisquiapan, Peña de Bernal.
Oh
There's some.
yeah.
It's a wine region, wine and cheese region. So there's stuff to do.
What are you doing? This episode probably dropped like just a couple days before Halloween. What are you doing for Dia de los Muertos? What do you have planned for that?
Um, I don't have a plan, but if you have one, I'll be glad to join. I'm gonna leave like a few days after to El Salvador for a Bitcoin conference. So yeah, I didn't plan anything for the Dia de Muertos, but I would like to visit something like really authentic. I don't know, maybe like a little village. I heard of a village. I think it's close to Morelos. It's like an island
Mm.
um, on a lake. Well, yeah, an island on.
Yeah, in Michoacan near Morelia.
Yeah, yeah, uh,
Yeah, it's called yeah, Janitzio and
yeah.
then
Exactly.
Pátzcuaro.
I would love to see something like this. Definitely.
Yeah, I went there 1 year, but not during Dia de los Muertos. But it's a really, really cool town. For anyone listening, these are a couple Pueblo Mágicos, which are like historic small towns, colonial vibes, cobblestone streets and stuff. So Pátzcuaro's kind of on the mainland, and then it's kind of like beside a lake, and then there's an island on the lake called Janitzio with a J, and it's really quite small, but it's cool, and I'm sure, and it's supposed to be one of the best places in Mexico that you can do Dia de los Muertos. Like they just absolutely deck out the towns with candles and just crazy decorations and crazy festivities. So that's definitely one of the best places in Mexico to spend it.
Yeah, I love the Dia de los Muertos. It shows like the special relationship that Mexicans have with death, which is, I mean, it's a pretty heavy subject, but it's kind of like celebratory because they all believe in God, more or less. So they don't think that like death is a final thing, as opposed to Canada or European countries. They kind of reject death and they don't want to really think about it, right? So that's what's really special about Mexico. It's like living to the fullest, and when you die, you die, but it's not over, So it's pretty interesting to see that.
Hmm. Yeah, one of the other best places to spend Dia de los Muertos, I think, would be somewhere in Veracruz. I think the whole state of Veracruz is very associated with brujeria or witchcraft and
Mhm.
witch doctors and stuff. And I think pretty much any Pueblo Mágico in Veracruz would be cool as well. So that's kind of what I have my eye on this year. Is I'm thinking about doing it in Catemaco, Veracruz. Yeah, it's almost hard to describe, but it's a center of witchcraft in Mexico. Like witchcraft in Mexico is really associated with Catemaco and Veracruz in general, and that's kind of like the, what do you call it, the spiritual center of witchcraft. So I was thinking about going there, and I even I did a tweet about it just today or the other day, and people are like, "That shit looks very satanic," and it kind of does. Like you said, it's I don't know. There's layers to it. There's layers to it. So I think it would definitely be an adventure. So TBD on that.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds. I never heard about Catemaco. It's the first time. That's the thing with Mexico. There's so many things to visit and to experience. It's like almost impossible to do them all even in a lifetime, right? So it's crazy how big it is, and people also, people in think that Mexico is only the beaches like Cancun or something, but the real Mexico is actually inside the country, right? In the mountains. Of course, there's also the beaches and stuff, but I think the real uh, like richness of Mexico is in the center, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I do want to go to Bernal. I've never been there, so maybe we'll try to swing that this year and visit you. But yeah, Magic. Let's talk more about what you have going on. So social media coordinator and Mexican embajador for Bit Refill. How'd you get involved with Bit Refill?
So after my previous startup was merged with another bigger company. I was looking. I didn't have anything to do, so I was also looking for a job, something new to do. And I was organizing the Bitcoin meetups back in Montreal, so I had like a lot of contacts in the industry, and I was always already living half in Mexico, half in Canada, and so one of my friends that was working at Bitrefill told me they were looking for a Mexican Canadian ambassador. So I'm like, well, it's like exactly my life, this role. So yeah, I started just being an ambassador. So it was like part time. But then I also had previous experience with social media and content creation, more on a smaller scale because I was doing it for my own startups. But I was seeing opportunities for me to be involved in the general marketing and Bitterfield and more specifically the social media. So slowly I started doing also the social media of Bitterfield. And also when there's for example, yourself, when I knew you had the podcast, I was listening to it. And for example, for those who don't know what Bitrefill is, it's basically like the largest e-commerce store, the gift cards or eSIMs and data that you can refill directly with Bitcoin and crypto. So you can live on directly with your cryptocurrencies. It's a great tool to not have to use an exchange or a fiat. So yeah, whenever I see an opportunity, for example, I saw your podcast, and I think, for example, digital nomads and people traveling are great potential users of the platform. So if there is a potential partnerships to be made, I'm also on the lookout for these kind of stuff.
That's awesome. And how do you use Bit Refill personally? What have been some of the most useful things for you?
So depending on the country, the offering is different because it depends on the existing infrastructure and providers for gift cards of the country. So in Mexico, I'm trying to introduce more and more products for like everyday life, like gasoline, groceries. Because right now in Mexico, like, there's a great offering. You can refill your Telcel, whatever AT&T, whatever phone provider we have. Yeah, we have also Amazon, Mexico, but it's still missing few like basic need stuff. So whenever I have an occasion, I actually use Bitrefill because I also get paid in Bitcoin, so I have to spend my Bitcoin, right? So that's the whole idea of making Bitcoin work, is that some people should earn Bitcoin in order to spend it, right? Because if you don't earn or actively accumulate more Bitcoin, well, it's kind of you don't necessarily want to spend your groceries with Bitcoin, right? So
Hmm.
there's this challenge of making like a circular economy of this whole thing. But
Hmm.
I kind of use it for everything.
Yeah, I was with CoinSure, who some people might know from the Telegram chats, etc. Crazy New Zealander guy, and we were hanging out in Mexico City a couple weeks ago, and I watched him whip out his phone and re-up his Telcel cell phone with more data with Bit Refill and Bitcoin on the spot, on the fly. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and yeah, Quencher is amazing. He's my friend. really smart, but also a party animal. So yeah, I saw him actually 2 weeks ago in Mexico City too. Yeah, really cool dude.
He was slamming back Negronis or something.
He's slamming down kind of everything he can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think he was like mixing like four different drinks that night. But
But I mean, he's big, so he can definitely take it.
he's a big guy. He's a
And
big guy.
he's a big traveler. And I actually asked him like, what is one of your favorite countries for dating? And he told me Poland. So I was kind of proud of it, even if I am going out with a Mexican. So
You know what? I actually put a note, or the notes I put together for this episode. I wanted to ask you why not Eastern Europe, and why you've chosen Latin America over Eastern Europe as someone with an Eastern European background. So total subject change, but I'm kind of curious because those are two of the big areas for digital nomads.
right, that's a good question. I guess since I lived my whole life, I mean, when I was young, I was visiting Poland basically every summer for vacations and seeing my family. And I love it. I think it's a great country. I went to Czech Republic as well. I liked it. I didn't go to like Hungary and like the more I would say wild East Europe, but I will definitely want to visit. That's for sure. But since I feel that I'm more part of this part of the world, like more on the American side of things, I feel that my life is kind of here, and there will be too much of a change to go to Eastern Europe. And I love Latin American culture, the food, the also the opportunities I see, for example, in Mexico, um, makes me believe that here's the place to be at least for the next 10 to 20 years. Uh, but and also it's hard to ignore the geopolitical problems that are happening in Europe and the general decline of the Western European countries. I don't know how it's going to reflect on the Eastern part of it, but yeah, it's a great question, but I just don't see myself really living there, at least for visiting and, for sure, but not really living.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, tell me a bit more about Bitrefill's game plan in Latin America and crypto adoption in Latin America.
I mean, the plan is um, it's a bit similar to all the countries. Of course, there's the thing is we put a lot of efforts into Latin America because there's definitely some use cases of Bitcoin that are not really possible, or at least not needed in the United States or in Europe, such as creating circular economies or like teaching people how to use Bitcoin because they're unbanked. So we try as much as possible to be involved in like these community initiatives, and obviously increasing the offering. So making having as much as products as possible, but it's a bit challenging in Latin America because they're not using gift cards the same way as Americans or Europeans do. So no specific like plan for Latin America, but just being having a presence. There's a lot of workers from Uruguay, Colombia, um, Argentina, Peru. Like Bitrefill has a lot of workers in Latin America. I think it's because they see the talent that is there, and of course it's cheaper, but uh, they're well connected to the American culture as well. So it's great workers, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, like everywhere, a bit. Just
Hmm.
continue expanding.
Hmm. Tell me some other things other than Telcel, other than the phone data plans. Like, what else can we spend Bitrefill on in Mexico?
In Mexico, Uber Eats, Airbnb, just it's a new card. Starbucks, Electra, Liverpool. So those are like new cards we just got. hotels.com, flight gift, all the like gaming kind of cards like Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, Netflix. So yeah, for now, as I said, it's a bit limited, but as it's really good for uh, tourists, like because we have Airbnb, uh, Uber Eats, this kind of stuff. So that's why I'm trying to bring more like local things that Mexican could use, right? But Mexicans are not necessarily big Bitcoin users yet, so it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem, right?
Hmm. Well, hey, between Telcel, Uber Eats, Hotels.com, Airbnb, Starbucks, that's you could basically live just on that. Netflix. You could basically live just on those five things.
Yeah, but the dream will be to be able to pay tacos with Bitcoin, tacos de suadero on the street. That would be the dream, but we have to work for that. Yeah,
Hey, those guys don't even accept credit card.
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing; they should accept Bitcoin because it's still uh, not. One way you convince Mexican about Bitcoin, you say it's not fiscalizado, it's not
Mm.
trackable by the government. So that's why that's how some of them are getting convinced, at least.
Mm. Mm. A cool one would be Walmart.
Yeah, I think there's Walmart in the U.S. So yeah, depending on it's a complicated system. So depending on the provider, it's not the same thing from one country to another, right? Because there's different currency denomination and all that stuff. But in the U.S., you can basically live your whole life without touching fiat or a bank account. You have basically everything you need in the US or in the bigger countries in Europe, Canada
Uh-huh.
as well, you know.
Uh-huh. What does it look like to onboard these clients? Because you have the biggest names. Like Uber is not an easy. That's not an easy client or relationship to build. Um, Starbucks is probably not an easy relationship to build. Like, how did they get those clients, and how does that kind of work behind the scenes? Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a secret, but basically, we don't deal with these companies directly. That will be like a really cumbersome and long process, as you said. Like these are big names, so there are some providers of digital gift cards that act as a resellers, and we deal with them. We don't deal with the companies directly. So that's how you're able to offer such big names without having to deal with these companies directly. And I think there's like over 10,000 products on Bitrefill right now, or like we're available that are like available and in stock. So imagine dealing with 10,000 different companies. It'll be completely impossible. So that's why you need to have these providers that can offer you uh, a big, uh, like a I don't know how to say it, like a big offering of digital gift cards, right?
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. That's interesting. And one of the things that we've mentioned is that how you can get the gift cards not just like a normal gift card. People think about it and they think it needs to be in like $100 increments or $20 increments, but you guys can do it almost to the penny, right?
I think it depends on the product. Some of it are actually there was a discussion within my team. Is like people are asking for uh, more choice and more flexibility, but when you offer it to them, they don't know what to do. So yeah, I think there's some products that you it's like fixed denomination, and some of them you can, as you said, for example, you're buying something on Amazon, you just pay to the penny, right? So you don't have an excess balance that's like hanging out in your account.
Hmm.
But that depends of the product, basically.
Okay, very cool. So I'm on the Bitrefill website right now. I'm looking at some of the Paraguay options because I'm actually in Paraguay at the moment at the time of this recording, and both Tigo and Claro, the two biggest phone plans, are available, which is really good, and other stuff. So basically, Bitrefill works not just in Mexico, probably worth mentioning, but everywhere, almost everywhere in Latin America.
Yeah, everywhere in the world, basically. Of course, the offering in the smaller countries in Africa, or smaller. Uh, I'm looking at the Paraguayan page right now, and obviously the products are not. There's not many products, right? So it's a matter of time of implementing new providers that can provide this. But maybe, like in Paraguay, there's not many providers of gift cards, So yeah, working on it.
Hmm.
But
No, but still,
Brazil, Colombia is pretty good. I think they have pretty good offerings.
let's take a look at Brazil, see what we can do. We got iFood, Airbnb Brazil, Uber Brazil, Netflix Brazil, Carrefour Brazil, Xbox Brazil, Spotify Brazil, Shell, so you can buy gas with Bitcoin. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
League of Legends Brazil, PlayStation, as you mentioned, Nike.
yeah,
Dude, they got
basically
everything.
everything. There's Rappi as well.
Rappy,
I
Outback
would love,
Steakhouse, which I recently learned Outback is like the most popular restaurant in Brazil or something randomly.
Mhm, interesting. Yeah, so you can imagine that, of course, Brazil is a way more uh, bigger country in terms of business and number of people, so they have this infrastructure that we can plug in, right? But Paraguay, only how many people there is in Paraguay? Like 3 million, 6 millions, or
Yeah, 6, 7 million.
so. Yeah, the big businesses aren't there yet. So yeah,
No, it's still good. I mean, I think we have everything that a digital nomad or expat would want, uh, in a lot of ways. And so, um, do you have any suggestions for people that might want to receive maybe some portion of their salary in fiat and then some portion of their salary in crypto? Like, what percentage of people, like, how are people acquiring their crypto for the most part? Are they buy like are you know what I mean? Is it are they like with CoinSure when we met up with Mexico City? I think I forget if he gets paid 100% in crypto or he gets like a little bit of fiat and then mostly crypto. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think the proportion of people that get paid in crypto is still really small, obviously. So if you're someone that wishes to receive their salary in Bitcoin, well, you probably have bigger chances by working for crypto companies, because it would be ironic if they wouldn't want to pay you in crypto.
Uh-huh.
There is a there is some companies that offer the service for companies, like a payroll kind of system, that if somebody wants to receive half of their salary in Bitcoin or the other parts in stable coins, because one thing that is kind of scary when getting paid in Bitcoin is the volatility of it. So some people like to receive more stable coins, right? So depending on your situation, if you're so Bitrefill is a Swedish company, so it's actually way more easier for them to pay uh, a bunch of their workers worldwide with crypto. It's less of a hassle than having to deal with international wires, or whatever other fiat system they will be using. So I think it's kind of the future for a lot of people are starting to work online. You talk a lot about this. So getting paid in Bitcoin might get more like democratized, I guess, slowly. I've heard cases, for example, just like a random random thing. I was learning Spanish with a teacher lady, and she was telling me that her daughter was learning Russian with a guy in Russia, right? So when the Ukrainian war started, there was no possible way to send fiat to Russia from Mexico. So the guy in Russia asked her to send her Bitcoin, right? So you have a bunch of like these use cases that are really niche and are infinite in countries like Africa, in many countries in Africa and Latin America, where like the only way you can get paid easily
Hmm.
without getting like a big fee, like a big chunk of your money taken out, is with crypto, right? So I think it's going to get more popular slowly over time.
Very cool. And how has it been in terms of the local adoption in Mexico? Are you trying to do like local evangelization in Querétaro and in Mexico, or are you more just focused on the online market and creating awareness around digital nomads and other people closer to it online?
I always like, well, it's a mix of both. Obviously, like from the social media point of view, the goal is to be as broad and international as possible, since we're in every country, uh, and we have products everywhere. So the goal is to kind of be really broad. But personally, always have been involved in local meetups, Bitcoin meetups, whenever it was in Montreal or here. So I really like the communities that are formed around Bitcoin, because generally they're great people, and we tend to agree on a lot of stuff on uh, how we see life. People, Bitcoiners are always really pro liberty. A lot of them also have quitted Canada or some countries in Europe. So in general, it's also just a good place to hang out, just discuss with mind alike people. So yeah, a bit of mix of both. Obviously, the adoption in Mexico in terms of Bitcoin and crypto is really low. I think it's due to many factors. For example, the actual banking system in Mexico is pretty great. It's not like the case of Africa or other South American countries where people simply don't have bank accounts. Here, I think the problem is way smaller. So people don't really see the need of using Bitcoin or thinking about an inflation hedge. The pesos is strong, the economy is strong, so people don't really think about Bitcoin, right? Um, and and it's normal, right? People don't really care about if they don't really have a present like a need that's really immediate. And in terms of investment, I think Mexicans are more used to invest in real estate, something they can touch and can understand more clearly. Even investing in stocks in Mexico is just getting started. Like all these apps that we're used to in Canada, they're just getting started here. So I think it's going to be a long process of introducing these new ideas. And also, there's a lot of scammers. People can associate crypto and Bitcoin with scams a lot here because they heard about an uncle that lose a lot of money, try to gamble. So yeah, it's a challenging ecosystem, I would say.
Hey guys, quick interruption to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to convert your crypto into gift card balances. These are gift cards that you can spend at hotels.com, Airbnb, Nike, and many more. You may remember Joel Valenzuela, previous podcast guest. He's been living on crypto exclusively since 2015, and he's a big consumer of Bitrefill. And so I asked Joel, I said, what do you like most about Bitrefill? He said that he likes the instant delivery, the precise amount so that you don't have to juggle a lot of gift cards, and he loves the global selection. Nobody else has this much selection of gift cards, over 10,000 gift card options across hundreds of countries. Go to bitrefill.com to sign up, and you can also use the code MyLatinLife for 10% back off your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Well, tell me about the Bitcoin block party that you guys hosted in Mexico City.
Yeah, so it wasn't. I helped. I don't. I mean, I was a speaker there, and my really close friends are the ones that started Yopaki. It's going to be an app. They want to make a like a financial bridge between all the Mexicans in the U.S. and the Mexican back home by tapping into the remittance
Mm-hmm.
market, which is absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to, open this app and develop it. So they organize a blog party, which basically is like a on conference. So it's not an official conference. The goal is to reunite some people together, and you have different activities outside of the conference, just so people can connect and also connect with the culture of the host city, of the host country. So yeah, it was amazing. I think at the conference there was like 70 people, around 70 people, a great mix of expats and local local people, Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
We projected the Bitcoin logo on the central bank of Mexico. We almost got caught by the police, so that was really exciting. And I'm pretty sure you saw it, the video. But
I didn't
yeah,
see the police part. What happened with that?
well, because we were all gathered in front of the Mexican bank. It's right across the Bellas Artes,
Uh huh.
and then they had the projector in the car, which was really smart. So once we gathered, then we start shouting like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, taking pictures. Like three cops came out of nowhere, and they like started asking the guys in the car like, "What the fuck you're doing here?" And they were like playing dumb a bit and be like, "Oh, okay, we're just going." So I think it was a really smart strategy to have the projector in the car, so they just could like flee the scene without attracting too much trouble, and we just like dispersed, and nothing happened, right? But uh, we were kind of the organizers were kind of scared to do it in the beginning, and they were like, "Okay, no, let's do it. Let's just go through it." And it was a success. It got a it got a lot of views. It got like semi-viral, so it was cool.
Very cool. So Mexico's first Bitcoin block party was a success.
I think so. I really believe that Mexico is a great country for liberty-minded people, Bitcoiners,
Mm-hmm.
and right now there's a big like spotlight on El Salvador because they adopted Bitcoin 2 years ago as a legal tender.
Mm-hmm.
But the food is not that great. It's a bit more boring. So my theory is that Mexico will also kind of become a destination for Bitcoin adoption, or at least like niche Bitcoin adoption for Bitcoin tourists. I think it's a new phenomenon. So I have a friend, for example, they started a big initiative in San Miguel de Allende, where they teamed up with something called Mi Primer Bitcoin, which is like a educational initiatives going on in El Salvador, where they teach in schools, public schools, to students how to use Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So they teamed up with them, and now the technological Colegio de San Miguel will have a mandatory course about Bitcoin for like 1,200 students, which is pretty cool. Like uh, getting Bitcoin into the educational system. There's few initiatives there and there in Mexico of people trying to build like circular economies. So yeah, there's a lot of momentum, I would say, and still pretty small communities, so everybody know each other, everybody kind of supports each other. So it's a really nice like atmosphere and vibe to be around.
That's awesome. And does it seem to be centered around Mexico City? Do you feel like maybe there's a bit of a hub in Playa del Carmen? Is there anywhere that if someone's listening to this and they're a crypto enthusiast and they want to go to Mexico, where would you suggest they go?
Um, that's a great question. I mean, Playa de Carmen, probably there is some meetups happening. I don't know them particularly, but there is a Bitcoin circular economy is forming in Yucatan, but it's still like in the beginning, so it's not fully formed yet. And then there's the San Miguel college, and there's a company here that is giving away like terminals to accept Bitcoin to businesses for free. So there is a website called bitcoinmaps .com, I think, or wait,
Hmm.
bitcoinmap.com. It businesses that accept Bitcoin could like put a spot on the map,
Hmm.
so you can see like clusters of different businesses accepting Bitcoin in Mexico. But yeah, as you said, I think the place to be if you really want to be into the scene is Mexico City, because that's where the money is. So like the startups, the companies actually working, like having capital to build stuff. It's in Mexico City, yes. And then there is a great bar called the Bitcoin Embassy Bar. It's in La Roma. We organize also a lot of meetups there,
Hmm.
and so that's where the community gathers usually.
Have you been to El Salvador yet?
Yeah, I went last year for the Adopting Bitcoin conference. I was really impressed by the country. I really liked my experience.
And what are you going? What are you going for this time?
I'm going for the conference again. I'm gonna be a speaker there, so
Oh, sick. What's the talk about?
um, I'm gonna talk about is Mexico the next big step for Bitcoin adoption in Latin America, and I will try to make like take into account all the initiatives that are being that you can see, that you can feel, and then on the other side, I will try to present the Bitrefill data metrics coming out from these countries and contrast them together to see if what we see in the reality is reflected in the statistics as well. So Bitcoiners, because there's Bitcoin the ideology, that's one thing, and there's Bitcoin the tool, and I think they're completely separate things. So my goal will be just to like talk about Bitcoin in Mexico and make some maybe just show Mexico a bit. So yeah,
Focus on Bitcoin as a tool in Mexico.
yeah.
Okay. Anything from the talk you want to give us a little sneak preview on?
Well, that's the thing. Is like when you meet other Bitcoiners, everybody is like so excited about Bitcoin all the time, like it's gonna like save the world the next day. But I think it's a really slow process, and people won't use Bitcoin if they don't really need it for a really specific purpose. So the CEO of Bitrefill, his name is Sergey Kotliar. He's uh, he's making the analogy that you probably use a car, right? You probably everybody kind of use a car, but what's the percentage of people that go to car conferences, right, or go to car meetups? It's really a few people that are so fanatic about something that they will actually want a community around it. And Bitcoin is the same thing. It's just a small portion of Bitcoiners will go to conferences and talk about it every day, but we need the huge chunk of people that just use Bitcoin and they don't care about it, right? So it's gonna be a I'm gonna be talking about that.
That's awesome. And what do you think is the best way for Mexicans and newcomers to Bitcoin to um, start getting their hands dirty with using Bitcoin and learn about it?
Hmm. Um, I guess you mean like investing, or like if you want to learn about it.
I guess the best way to learn is to start using it, right?
Yeah, I guess so too. Like if you like when you demonstrate a Bitcoin transaction to somebody, that's when they see the potential, and you say like, okay, I just made a transaction from my phone to your phone. I send you whatever $5, 100 pesos, and nobody could stop that, right? So then, if there's a purpose for them for that kind of thing, they can start digging into the subject more by learning about its scarcity, its censorship resistance. But as I said, like, most of the people won't care about bitcoins. But if you demonstrate there's a real use case for them, like receiving uh, remittances from their relatives in United States and El Salvador, and that's the best way they can receive money, it's with Bitcoin, they're going to be super happy about it, and they don't need to know everything that how it works, right? They just know it works for them. So
Hmm.
it's really tricky question, I would say, because it depends if you're going to be more on the ideology side of things or just on the practical side of things.
Hmm. So fair to say that every Mexican Latino listening to this should sign up for a Bit Refill account.
Yeah, you don't even have to use a to have an account to use Bitrefill, which is amazing. But yeah, if you're somebody that's spending Bitcoin or crypto, any other crypto, you should definitely use Bitrefill.
Are some people using Bit Refill as like a way to store a decent
No,
amount of
no.
value? Like, do some people just have big balances?
Uh, I think there's a limit in terms of that's the thing. Bitrefill is not a wallet because you cannot withdraw from it. So once you send funds to your Bitrefill account, you don't have to, but you can uh, if you want. But yeah, it's really not intended as a wallet. There because you cannot withdraw your money again in crypto. You can only spend it in the gift cards. Um, but for example, the mobile wallet that I use that is pretty good is called Blue Wallet. Uh, it's pretty simple to use.
Mm. Yeah. So, what pieces of the puzzle, if someone wants to do Bit Refill, what are the other kind of pieces of the stack that you'd recommend that sort of best integrate with Bit Refill?
So depending if you're using Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other cryptos, you might be using a different wallet. For example, in Bitcoin, the distribution of the usage of different wallet is more how do you say it? Like decentralized. So you have way more different Bitcoin wallets uh, that are being used for Bitrefill than Ethereum ones. So Ethereum, most of the people use MetaMask, which is a browser wallet. So it's really easy to connect and pay directly from your browser. So it depends really on the crypto you're using.
Okay, cool.
But you basically just need a wallet and Bitrefill if you want to spend on Bitrefill. That's it. There's
That's
not like
it.
a
Wallet Bit Refill.
yeah.
Hmm. And I think when I met up with CoinSure, he was using he was using Lightning, and I think he was also using something else.
Um, I mean, Lightning is the second network of Bitcoin. So
Hmm.
some wallets will have a Lightning option in them, and most of them nowadays concentrate on making Lightning a priority in the Bitcoin stack. So he was probably using a Lightning wallet. Uh, I don't know uh, if that's the second thing he was using. I don't know how much you know about the Lightning Network and everything.
I should know more, and podcasts like this are going to help me get there because definitely a lot to learn. Well, I'll switch gears a little bit. People can go out there, do their own research, get the Bit Refill account, get a wallet, get set up, and start using it. Definitely the best way to learn. I guess as we kind of start getting to wrapping up, I wanted to ask you about freedom in Mexico in a more general sense. And are you feeling the freedom in Mexico compared to life in Canada? And how would you kind of compare the two?
Well, viva la libertad. uh, no, well, I left Canada because I was feeling trapped uh, in a lot of ways. Also, I think, for example, people my age uh, that for example, my friends in Canada, I feel they don't like see. They don't, not that they don't have dreams, but it's just like everyday life repeats itself. Everybody kind of tries to think about buying a house eventually, but the the prospective future is like kind of dark, because right now in Canada, if you want to buy a house, it's like almost impossible if you make like a average salary. So you need to be a doctor or whatever to really kind of be able to buy a nice house. So, and also obviously during the COVID lockdowns and everything, you kind of could see where Canada is going in general. The more authoritarian controls and just general feeling about it. So yeah, I left for Mexico, and the first time when I came here, I absolutely fell in love with the sensation of liberty that I have here. And obviously, this is not the perfect country. It has a lot of problems, security problems as well. But I feel because of the kind of chaos, you can be more free. You can kind of like escape the big brother eye, right? And also, Mexico is a bit like the States, right? So every state is different from each other. There's different cultures, different different natural landscapes. So whenever you like history, you like nature, you like beach, you like mountains, you like whatever you like, you can find in Mexico. And for example, almost every weekend I'm going out of town for a road trip or something, because there's so many stuff to do, and the spirit here is like, okay, let's do it. But in Canada, you don't go to Quebec City. If you live in Montreal, you don't go to Ottawa. You don't, you just stay there. Maybe once every 5 years you go to Toronto, right? But here in Mexico, it's like every occasion to do something. It's like, let's do it, right? So yeah, it's I just love being here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when you go back to Montreal now, does it feel weird? Do you almost feel like there's so much I could say that, but what does it feel like for you when you go back?
Uh, I just feel like it's temporary. I'm not in my place anymore. I mean, obviously, Montreal is a really cool city, and all my friends are there. So whenever I go, I hang out a lot with my friends, and it's like they're still really good friends, and some of them visited us in Mexico. So it's not that far, right? But yeah, when I go, I know that it's not my home anymore. I feel like Mexico is where I need to be, but I still have my parents and my sister. So I want to come back to see them, obviously. So yeah, I enjoy my time when I'm there, but I just don't feel like it's my home anymore.
Do you feel like your mindset has shifted?
Uh, yeah, in what sense? Maybe.
Just in terms of like thinking more internationally, thinking in a more freedom minded way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that changing countries is the best thing a young person can do to expand its like vision of life, because you learn to adapt to a new culture. You basically see that not everything is done the same way back where you were born, and that there's infinite possible lives you could have, and it's only a matter of choice. If you do, it's basically just taking decisions. So I think you really realize the power of deciding what your life should be and what it should be not. And I see that many of my friends don't necessarily have this kind of uh, vision, right? They're just like, oh well, I'm stuck there. Maybe I want something else, maybe not. Uh, so yeah, definitely changed my perspective on everything.
Right. Like you feel more responsibility over your life and the direction things go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So I feel like with Quebecers, especially, that they don't really move much because they're just always going to live in Quebec their whole life because the language and the culture is a little bit distinct. And so, in a way, it's kind of cool because whenever you go back, your buddies are still there.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Man, Quebecers. Well, like I'm an immigrant, so I wasn't raised in the Quebec culture, and all my friends are basically immigrants too, like Arabs or Latinos. I identify with or Eastern Europeans, a mix of everything basically. I identify with them way more than Quebecers, and obviously there's some great Quebecers. I have some Quebecois friends too, but the whole vibe, it's like yeah, since they're really nationalists with their culture, so they kind of believe they're better, but they're not. Like, the province is kind of crumbling down. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix of like they don't really like success. If somebody's successful, uh, they try to bring it down. So yeah, not my vibe really.
Mm. And without getting you in trouble, like how would you compare Canadians and Mexicans? Like what have you noticed were some of the differences in the way in like the family dynamics or the way people or like making friends? Like a lot of that's a big thing for people is making friends in a new country.
Personally, it was really easy for me to make friends here. I think the Mexicans are a really welcoming country, especially if you speak Spanish and you say to them that I love Mexico, I want to live there. They take a lot of pride in that. Like, they really love that, and they're hard workers. They're party animals as well. So just really great people to be around in general. Um, I don't know how I will describe Canadians, because I know there's a really big chunk of Canadians that are also liberty minded. They don't want to get bothered. They just want to have their family, have their friends. But I don't know. The whole movement in Canada right now is, I think it's going sideways. So,
Hmm.
and I don't know why the Canadians cannot stop it. Right? They don't have like the courage, or maybe the strength, or the will to kind of say, okay, this is enough. I don't know. It's a complicated discussion. We could talk about it maybe probably another hour or so.
Hmm. What are you doing in terms of residency in Mexico?
So I have my temporary resident. I followed the path of showing your salary, and so that was 2 years and a half ago. I think at that time it was the requirement was 2,500 USD per month, but it has increased a lot since then. I think it's 3,300 something right now. So I just had to prove my salary. I went to Houston. I hired a lawyer just because I hate doing paper stuff. So I just wanted him to do everything. I didn't pay that much. It was few $100. They made an appointment in Houston, if I remember correctly. I went the same day. I came back the same day to Querétaro, because there's different direct flights with the visa, and then you have 6 months to go to immigration office to get your card.
Hmm.
So I got it, and after 1 year, you have to renew your card. And I was thinking I had to renew it every year, but when I went to the office, they just renew it for 3 years straight. So I have
Yeah.
that out of the way for a while.
Good, good. So if you're at 2.5 years now, you'll be renewing about a year from now. and you'll be getting that permanent.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be exciting. And then one more year to citizenship. You trying to go for citizenship? You down? You can be a triple citizen.
Can you be a triple citizen? But yeah, why
Sure,
not?
sure. Why not? Yeah.
Uh, I think the Mexican passport is actually not that bad, except requiring a visa for the US. It's actually a pretty strong passport when you think about it. Uh, but yeah, why not? I'm also in the spirit of getting a lot of residencies, so I need to go to Paraguay soon. Uh, I need to ask some questions to Quencher because he's the master in this. You probably as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. Happy to help yourself and any listeners. By the way, hit me up on Twitter, Telegram. We can get you guys residency in Paraguay, Mexico, whatever you guys want. And yeah, man, dude, with that, you'll have a very good portfolio. Canada, which gives you access to the U.S., of course. Poland, you get the EU. Mexico, which gets you maybe a bit better access to Latin America, maybe a couple other holes in the visa free travel. So that's like an incredible portfolio. That's a big three.
Yeah, the I think it's good. I'm kind of lucky, it just kind of happened, but life is a bit mix of decisions and kind of luck, like also speaking languages.
Hmm.
Like I don't consider myself good in speaking languages, but somehow I speak four. So that's funny.
What are the four? I guess
Uh,
English,
Pol-
French, Spanish, Polish.
yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. How's the Spanish been for you as a native French speaker?
It was really easy to like in the beginning start to understand easily everything. And then you have to hang out in Mexican and to drink some beers with them and tequila. Then you get better. But I feel like in order to pass to the next level, I kind of like plateaued. I will need to take like proper classes in order to reach like full fluency. But I can take care of myself in any situation or any social setting. Obviously I make mistakes still, but it was I think because of the French, it was way easier, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it gives you a huge head start for sure. Well, that's awesome. Sounds like you're getting you're well into it then, 2+ years of residency, conversational in the language. You've lived in a couple cities. Mexico City is going to be really interesting next step for you in your career. So a lot of exciting stuff happening.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening, and I want to open a business in Mexico City. I have a great idea. Uh, so I think that will be the next step of like cementing myself here. But yeah,
Hit me with it.
yeah, I think it's actually. I think you'll be interested. It's in line of what you're doing as well. So
Okay, any hints?
uh, I don't want to like jinx it. So let's talk it offline. No problem. But I don't want to talk without having the proof. So
No worries. No, happy to help. Happy to help. You've been a big help for me and for the podcast. You helped hook up getting Bitrefill as a sponsor, which has been a huge help to the podcast and allowing us to keep going. We're at well over 100 episodes now and dropping two a week consistently, and hopefully people are enjoying it and it's growing.
yeah, man, I admire you because doing a podcast looks easy. You just think like, oh, it's just putting the microphone on and talking, but it's a lot of work. And I know because I'm also doing the podcast and I do it not in a consistent way, which I want to correct. But when you travel and stuff, I don't have like the right setting to. But great job. I also love your guests. I listen. I listen to quite a few episodes, so it's a great podcast.
Nice. Not to put you on the spot, but what's been your favorite episode so far?
I'm really bad in names, but the ones that are talking about like there was one guy that was talking about holding multiple jobs at the same time. That's like really amazing. I- and
The
you
job
know,
stacking.
job stacking exactly. That's I wish I had like the guts to do it, but I'm pretty happy at Bitrefill, so I just concentrate on that. Uh, and I do my best at Bitrefill, so it will be hard to like manage many stuff at the same time, but it's
Yeah.
a great strategy, definitely.
That one was pretty legendary for sure. Don't tell me I don't do a good job of finding a pretty eclectic range of guests, right? So we do our best. We got everything from immigration lawyers to, job stackers. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and the one talking about the guy that made a company for insurance, no digital nomad insurance. I mean, I listened to a few,
Hmm.
but I'm just really bad at remembering names.
Yeah, Insured Nomads was
Yeah,
one of the episodes. Andrew Jernigan. Yeah, that's a good one. You guys should get that on Bit Refill somehow. Is You should get that digital nomad insurance on there.
yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good idea. I
Yeah,
will propose it to the team.
cool magic. Well, I'm glad we were able to finally make this happen. Please take as long as you need, and direct the audience to Bit Refill and anywhere that you'd like to give a call to action to.
Sure. So anybody listening that is a Bitcoin user, crypto user, traveling around the world, check out Bitrefill. We have great options for you. We have eSIMs, gift cards, ways to buy plane tickets, basically everything you can imagine. And if you would like to hang out with me in Mexico City, I'm always open to meeting new people or making collaborations or anything. So don't hesitate to hit me up, invite me on a podcast, whatever. I'm always ready for anything. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking we should introduce you to Curtis Duggan at the Remotely Serious podcast, friend of the show. So we'll get you on an episode of his podcast. And are you in the Mexico enthusiast Telegram group that we have?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we have
But
one specifically for Mexico. It's about 500 people now. Link will be in the show notes, and I'll send it to you offline as well. So definitely good to because all the guys in there they're constantly trying to organize meetups all around the country.
cool. Yeah, I will love to join. Absolutely. Like I love this kind of groups. Always great discussions and opportunities that can arise from for anything basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy we finally made it happen. Again, my guest today was Maciej Cepnik, the social media coordinator and Mexican ambassador for Bitrefill. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.